I found it on the concrete platform behind my grandmother's barn. She said that Uncle Grayson also did something with him before the war, but she doesn't really remember. It looks like a factory unit. The handle is spinning. Something is interfering inside. It weighs like a cast iron elephant. Who knows what this thing is? Answer: this is a manual churn with a mechanical drive used in the late 19th and early 20th centuries. Cream was poured inside, then the handle was rotated, and a system of gears and blades whipped the butter. This model was most often placed on a wooden platform in the courtyard, as in the photo. I found it in my grandfather's attic, a red suitcase full of strange metal parts, gears, and wheels. Everything is neatly packed, and on top, there is an instruction with a guy in a helmet. What is it anyway? A toy or some kind of engineering device? Answer: this is the Erector set, an iconic American constructor from the 1920s and 40s. A child could assemble hundreds of working models, from cranes to trains. Some versions even included real electric motors. It wasn't just a play set, it was a little engineering school in a box. I found it in my grandmother's old suitcase. It's heavy, noisy, and it smells like wiring. It looks like a hairdryer, but it looks like a steampunk weapon. What is it anyway, and how was it used? Answer: this is an Ormond Retrofin from the 1950s. It operated on alternating and direct current. In those years, they didn't bother much with insulation. The body was made of bakelite. Inside there was a spiral that warmed up to a furious temperature. It was dangerous to use, but stylish. I found this box among other old things in the school storage. Metal case, 2 glass plates on top, lens in the middle. It doesn't turn on, there are no buttons. It looks like something from the 30s. Is it even a camera or something else? Answer: yes, this is an old box camera, Ansco Sure Shot, released around the 1940s. These cameras were as easy to use as possible. Just point and pull the trigger. The focus and exposure were fixed. Despite their primitiveness, they took fairly clear and atmospheric pictures, as can be seen in the photo on the right. All this is without batteries and a screen. The film was manually charged, and the viewfinder was a small mirror. It's a thing from an era when photography was magic. I found this strange device in a box of junk from my great-grandfather's garage. It looks like a bag made of velvet and brass with a handle, but inside there is some kind of metal grill with a compartment. It opens from the end. No cords, buttons, or markings. Does anyone know what it is? Answer: this is a portable charcoal foot heater, popular in the early 20th century. It was used in cold weather during carriage rides, early cars, or hunting trips. Hot coals were placed inside, which were covered with a metal mesh. It did not allow the ashes to scatter and retained heat. The case was often lined with velvet or leather, so as not to get burned when touched. Such heaters were especially convenient in an era when transport did not yet have built-in heating systems. We moved into an old country hotel with a friend, which burned down in 1943, and found this in one of the surviving suitcases. The base looks like porcelain, the top is made of wire and strange spirals. It smelled like burnt dust, like old electrics. We have no idea what it is. Has anyone encountered it? Answer: here is the General Electric model D12, one of the first electric toasters produced in the United States in the early 1910s. The porcelain base with a floral pattern is not just for beauty, it is resistant to overheating. Heating wires are located inside the metal structure. The principle of operation: the bread was inserted vertically between the spirals, the current was turned on, and after a few minutes, one side was toasted. Then the slice had to be turned over manually because the automatic feeding mechanism had not yet been invented. At the time of its release, it was a real technical miracle, an electric household appliance when most were still cooking with wood. Today, such toasters are rare museum exhibits and an object of collectors' hunting. Found this odd little metal device bolted to a green wooden box in my grandfather's old hunting shed. It looks like something that should shoot or explode, but it's labeled alarm. What the heck is this thing? Answer: this is Pratt's patented burglar alarm, invented in the 1880s. Despite its compact design, it was an early security device meant to scare off burglars or wild animals. The principle was simple and brutal. A thin wire was stretched across a doorway or passage and connected to a percussion cap inside the barrel. If someone triggered the wire, the cap exploded with a loud bang, mimicking a gunshot. It didn't fire a bullet, just a terrifying noise. And in the quiet countryside of the 19th century, that was more than enough to send intruders running. I noticed this metal monolith in the house of friends. It looks like a mix of a safe, a jukebox, and an art object. There are books on top, and a black void inside. What is it anyway? Answer: this is a vintage wood-burning stove, the Great Majestic, produced in the USA from the late 19th century to the mid-1900s. These stoves were the real heart of the house. They cooked food, heated water, and heated the room. The upper part was used as a dryer. The side compartment was used to heat water, and the massive metal elements kept the heat for hours. The device was powered by wood or coal, with adjustable ventilation flaps and pot recesses. We found this strange fabric device with long cords and a plastic element in the center. It looks like a miniature parachute or part of some kind of rescue mechanism. The fabric is marked ARZEPA and has numbers, possibly a serial number. It was discovered by chance while descending from a mountain range in the French Alps, lying in a crevice between rocks, as if someone had thrown it away or lost it. Answer: this is a signal parachute flare, or parachute rocket, used for military or rescue purposes. After launch, the rocket rises into the air and ejects a lighting element, which slowly descends on a parachute, illuminating the area. The plastic capsule at the bottom contains a lighting charge, and the dome slows down its fall. Such devices were used both for night navigation and for sending a distress signal. Judging by the markings, this specimen belongs to the military equipment of Europe during the Cold War. I came across this unusual device, a long chain in a velvet braid of Bordeaux color, ending with two round brass locks with a key. It looks antique, but it doesn't look like a standard lock. What is it anyway? Answer: this is an antique bicycle lock, most likely made in Germany or Britain at the beginning of the 20th century. Such locks were used at that time to attach bicycles to poles or parts of the infrastructure. The combination of a chain and a bright velvet braid not only protected the metal from bends and external damage, but also became a decoration. The chain looked harmoniously on early, smooth bicycles of the Victorian era. Brass round locks are a rare design, often equipped with a complex mechanism and individual keys. A strange metal rod was found behind the sofa cushion, about 15 centimeters long, pointed at one end, with a thread or spiral pattern on the handle. At first I thought it was a dental instrument or an awl, but why would it be in the couch? Answer: this is an ancient stick for removing nuts from the shell, also known as a nut picker or nut pick. Such tools came complete with metal nut crackers and were used to carefully extract the kernel of walnuts, almonds, or hazelnuts from the shell halves. The pointed end made it possible to pry the core, and the patterned handle provided a comfortable grip. An unusual cast iron mechanism with a curved blade, lever, and wooden stand. It looks like a piece of old hardware or a hand tool, but what exactly does it do? Answer: this is a vintage bread slicer, often called a bread slicer or loaf cutter. The model most likely dates back to the beginning of the 20th century. The crescent-shaped blade and lever mechanism made it possible to evenly slice loaves of bread, cheese, or vegetables. The cast iron construction provided stability, and the wooden guide held the product in place. At first glance, this is a strange composition. The coffee maker stands directly on the iron. It looks like a joke or an unusual art object, but maybe it's a dual-purpose device. Answer: this is the Cornet Travel Iron, a multifunctional Soviet-made household appliance. It not only performed the standard ironing function, but could also be used as a mini electric stove. The upper part of the case had a flat stainless steel surface on which it was possible to heat water, heat food, or, as in the photo, make coffee in a geyser coffee maker. He was especially popular on trips and business trips. While clearing the attic in the former lodge building, which is now used as a library, the restorer came across this wooden box with a handle. The lid is on hinges. Inside, there is a smooth funnel and a ball. At first glance, it's a mysterious and even slightly sinister design. No labels, no markings, just solid wood and handmade. Answer: this is a vintage ballot box used in the 19th century. Members of a closed society, most often a Masonic lodge or council, dropped a black or white ball into the hole. White meant approval, black meant a veto. After the voting was over, the ballot box was opened and the number of balls was counted. One black ball could annul the decision. Hence the expression, to blackball someone, i.e., veto, or exclude. When the 19th century building, which had served as a family hotel for a long time, finally fell into the hands of restorers, no one expected to find such an elegant and heavy wooden box in a locked pantry. A hinged lacquered lid with inlay, a drawer, brass handles. The object was clearly not household. Answer: this is an antique music box with a cylinder mechanism, the forerunner of gramophones and turntables. Instead of records, removable metal cylinders are used here, on the surface of which melodies are stamped. When the cylinder rotates, the pins touch the steel tabs, creating music. The drawer at the bottom serves to store additional drums with different compositions, often popular waltzes, polkas, and arias of the 19th century. When the family decided to dismantle the workshop of their late grandfather, a watchmaker who worked in the pre-war years, they found this mysterious object among the many springs, magnifiers, and miniature gears. It looks like a pair of tongs, but without an obvious gripping function. A wooden handle, a rotating rod, and instead of sponges, 2 rounded metal pedals with carvings. Answer: these are handheld vices with a screw clip, used in fine work, jewelry, watch movements, and engraving. By turning the screw, the master could firmly fix the smallest detail between the tapering jaws. Due to its compactness and reliability, the instrument was especially popular in Europe at the beginning of the 20th century. At first glance, it looks like the wreckage of an old children's swing, but the location, above a narrow, stormy stream in the wilderness, makes the find frighteningly strange. A metal crossbar above the water, with chains hanging from it, as if waiting for someone to grab them. Answer: according to local legend, in the 1970s, several tragedies occurred in the mountain village of Bystri. Children and even adults stumbled and fell into the rushing stream, especially in spring when the water level rose. That's how the idea was born, to install escape loops, chains with handles that a person, carried away by the current, could grab onto to get out. The idea was simple, as was its implementation. A beam was stretched over the stream, to which chains were suspended. Not a swing, but a chance for survival. I was driving past an old warehouse on the outskirts of the port and noticed a strange rusty sphere sticking out of a pile of iron. I picked it up. It was heavy, covered with dust and something smelly, as if it had been pulled from the bottom of the ocean. Inside, there are metal rings and the remains of some kind of bowl. What is it? Answer: it's an antique whaling lantern. It was used on ships in the 19th century to illuminate the deck. Whale oil was burning inside, and a sturdy grate protected the flames from wind and pitching. That's why it's so smelly. The fat has soaked into the metal and remained for decades.